But I did take one.
Roll call, please.
Here. Here. Yes.
Here.
Mr. Walker.
Present.
Mr. Watts.
Here.
Ms. Wicker.
Here.
Here.
Here. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the agenda. Do we have any recommendations for changes?
Could I please add the TAC report to go under discussion?
Any objections to that? Okay, having that change submitted and made, do we have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Statement of chair, I have nothing this month other than thank you for being patient and waiting, and happy Valentine's Day. Board members' comments and reports. Dr. Bertram? Gordon?
Okay, thank you. I would like to speak today about an issue that seems to be a growing challenge in Indiana, where a well-intended system is breaking down, and that is school funding and the referendum process. I know that legislators are now diligently working to resolve the school funding gaps, but there still seem to be larger issues that need to be addressed. I'm going to talk about one district in particular here, but many of the same issues apply to other districts across the state. As a member of the State Board of Education over the past 4.5 years, I have endeavored to help the Indianapolis Public Schools innovate and improve its performance for the children who have deserved better. As a business person and resident of Indianapolis, and as a father, I know the huge importance of a well-prepared next generation of Hoosiers. That said, I have reservations about the close to $1 billion property tax increase that has recently been proposed by IPS. The proposal would represent an eye-popping annual tax increase for every homeowner and business property owner in the IPS district of almost $6 for every $1,000 of assessed value. I'm first concerned about the lack of transparency in adopting the tax increase proposal. The district made the proposal public in early December, then held 2 public meetings on a Tuesday and a Thursday night less than 2 weeks later for the stated purpose of public input. At the Thursday meeting, after the public comment, the board approved the proposal. The conclusion was a foregone conclusion. This may be the most nonchalant billion-dollar tax increase ever approved by anyone. The timing further seems intended to ensure that the proposal is presented to the voters in a referendum in a May primary election, historically seeing low voter participation rather than a November general election. At present, there appears to be little effort to make a case prior to early May. Typically, schools form PACs funded with private donations, hire PR professionals, and run referenda campaigns. Other than general statements about where the new funds might be allocated, the school district has further failed to document the actual need for close to $1 billion of additional funds. Over the 8-year tax increase period, the new dollars represent close to a 50% increase in their current budget. More troubling, by law, none of the new funds may be allocated directly to improving the education of its students in the classrooms. Instead, funds are allocated to items that should be covered under existing state funding, such as transportation, facilities, and compensation of employees. What's more, in addition to state dollars, The district receives substantial Title I federal funding dollars that most school districts do not receive, certainly in the amount, to support its existing needs and improve performance. Large school districts already receive more dollars per student than the average. For a little perspective, just over $1 billion funds the entire budget each year of Indianapolis and Marion County. Every police officer, firefighter, judge, and court, park, jail, street and sidewalk, and snowplow. Our entire state budget for education is $7 billion each year. $1 billion built an airport terminal and more than covered a new stadium and expanded convention center in downtown Indianapolis. Where exactly does the $1 billion number come from? And what specifically is it intended to address? Specifically, what are the performance metrics established that will tell the public what IPS's goals are and what constitutes success after 8 years? Further, what happens in 8 years when the district has to return to its current budget numbers? This tax increase proposal represents the largest school referendum proposal in Indiana history by several times, $1 billion. While it's true that other Marion County districts, as well as others across the state, have sought approval over the past 8 years for increased funding since the tax caps went into effect, most have been dramatically less, in the $50 to $75 million range, topping out. Let's not forget that over 10 years ago, only 10 years ago, the district received close to $300 million additional property tax dollars earmarked for addressing facilities. The burden of the proposed tax increases will fall heaviest on our lower and fixed income homeowners in the district. Unfortunately, this may contribute to the further gentrification of our neighborhoods by forcing out long-standing residents of our city for whom housing has become unaffordable. And for the middle class, get ready for tax increases of $2,000 or $3,000 or more every year. We must also be careful not to substantially increase the burden of doing business here. Indeed, the timing of this proposal could not be worse, as Indianapolis is locked in a pitched battle with 19 other cities to land the coveted Amazon headquarters. Community leaders have presented our state as a low-cost, business-friendly climate, but this proposal undermines that argument. If possible, we ought not raise funding by punitive measures, but rather should attract new investment that will generate new local tax revenues in a productive, fairer way. Those new corporate citizens may even become partners by fostering improvement in our public schools. In conclusion, the State Board of Education is charged with making recommendations to the Indiana General Assembly. 10 years ago, the legislature increased the state sales tax to provide for local school funding, while installing property tax caps with a local referenda process for certain exceptional capital and operating needs. In my view, school funding should be the province of the state, except in those exceptional circumstances, not of local property taxpayers. I would respectfully ask Speaker Bosma, President Long, and the legislature to consider taking action to freeze all school funding referendum and create a summer study committee to review how to improve efficiencies in our schools, especially as it relates to larger school districts with large capital costs, as well as addressing long-standing problems such as teacher pay for all Hoosier teachers. Perhaps also the State Board of Education should be delegated the authority to approve all proposed referendum under strict guidelines to provide real accountability. Or mayors and city council should have that approval. More importantly, however, IPS should pause the tax increase referendum by 1 year to ensure the proper careful and thorough community input that should help craft a better proposal. Let's go back to the drawing board and get it right. When such large amounts of taxpayer dollars are at stake, there must be communication and accountability to the public.
Any other board comments? Dr. Yeager?
Have attended, thank you, have attended several of the focus groups. As supervised and scheduled by State Board of Ed staff, and attended one on February 2nd. That had about 75 people there. And we had, for the first time, had a cross-section of professional educators at that meeting, counselors. I don't know that there are any teachers there, current teachers, but I know there were principals and superintendents and other folks involved in K through 12 public education. And I appreciated that meeting. It's a great sharing of thoughts and ideas regarding where are we going with pathways, how are we going to implement pathways, what are some suggestions, and would certainly encourage the state board and staff, and I would encourage board members, if you can attend those. It's a very good exchange of ideas and the continuation of maybe we don't need 75 people, maybe that was a little unwieldy, but if we could cut those numbers down, but keep the cross-section. I think it's important that we keep different facets of and levels of practitioners at those meetings so that we can share the thoughts of a counselor versus the thoughts of a principal versus the thoughts of a superintendent versus the thoughts of a teacher or a principal. I think those are important aspects, and so what we need to have is a good cross-section of information and feedback from those meetings. Dr. Ernest was there and did a nice job of helping to organize that meeting and keep it flowing, and appreciated his efforts. But also would encourage us to continue those efforts across the state, not just necessarily in Indianapolis, but across the state, and to include different levels and factions of education at those tables.
Thank you. Dr. Bertram?
I have a question. And I just want to make sure, Gordon, your comments, were you intending those comments to be your personal comments or to be adopted as a board statement?
Well, they were under board comments, so they're one board member.
You said the state board is charged with advancing things to the General Assembly, and I just want to make sure that that doesn't get captured as a state board initiative moving to the General Assembly, but that is Gordon Henry's perspective on.
Dr. Bertram, if you'd like to make a motion. I'm just kidding.
Make a motion that those are your comments and you own those. So.
Second. Any other comments? We are ready for public comments.
We also have our approval of minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Public comments.
Todd Best.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Todd Best with the Indiana Association of School Principals. And just some brief comments as we start to think about our 8F accountability language. It's now in rulemaking process. We've seen the timeline and we have the 4 dates published for public input. We appreciate that, and we've tried to communicate out to our members that there is also the email option to begin submitting that information there. We've had the chance to have some meetings with our members just already scheduled. So had some discussion with them about what that language looks like and perhaps some differences between the state draft and what's been approved by ESSA. What's come out from those is one concern over how growth looks now at the elementary middle school level. We have the 3 types of growth. You're probably familiar with that, where students get individual growth, then a subject level growth is calculated for each school, and then an overall growth amount is calculated to. The concern is that at the state level in that draft plan is that the subject level growth gets capped at that 100 points. We know we're on a 100-point scale. We also are seeing, of course, then that SMA tell us that the overall growth is capped at 100 points since we're on that 100-point scale. And again, mathematically, you can start to understand some of those things. But the feedback from our members at that level is when a language arts or a math score comes back and those teachers are really doing a great job, and that growth might be at 120 or 130 points, to cap that at 100 is concerning because it really is evidence of what's going on in that particular school, in that particular subject area. It contributes to the overall grade. So that kind of that issue on growth at the elementary middle school level is one item that we're debating and looking at to see how it should best be done, and appreciate your thoughts on that. Of course, growth is eliminated at the high school level, and understand that potentially that's a result of moving to a different accountability test that's currently in legislation. Since legislation is still proceeding through, we would advocate for growth being included at the high school level, because we may eventually have an opportunity for growth or even improvement, and that you can always include growth or improvement in the accountability rule. And if growth or improvement isn't available, then those percentage points are just shifted to another category, so perhaps proficiency. So by not including it at all right now precludes the opportunity for growth unless we go through a whole other rulemaking process. And that year-long process I know you enjoy so much. So perhaps we can include it at this time, and that way we can account for it if we have the ability to grow. The last item that I comment on that seems to be the discussion point is the on-track indicator that has been proposed and included. And I think it's two points of discussion. One, is it a good indicator? And then two, what are the right indices to go into that indicator if it is something we should include? I think the concern that we start to hear from our members is when we look at just the credits and the Fs leading up to graduation, we're really calculating graduation rate again. And in the final rule, we move graduation rate to 50%. You add on to that the 15% that would be a part of that in 2023, and literally 2/3 of that grade is calculated really on one metric. All the years that high school accountability has been in place, the strength has been a capturing of the 4 years, not just that single data point. And we seem to be merging backwards on that item right there. So again, is it a good indicator? I'm not sure. Are the right indices in there? I'm not sure. So just debate and some food for thought about how that looks. I appreciate your time this morning. A lot of good discussion to come at those public meetings.
Dr. Bertram?
Question. Thank you, Dr. Bass. Isn't there research to suggest that graduation and students being at a certain point, a freshman year, is correlated to graduation rates?
There may be. The data that we're seeing and what we're hearing from our principals, though, is that the kids that are in that cohort that stay in their school are graduating at a high rate because those teachers understand that they might have 2 Fs coming in, whether that's a preparation issue or a family issue or I'm a freshman issue, which we see a lot. They're able to catch them up over that 4-year span.
I think there's substantial research to suggest that the freshman year, the number of credits earned, is directly correlated to graduation. It'd be interesting to look at that data. And then look at the data, those students who fall behind, what percentage of those students actually catch up and actually graduate on time. That'd be interesting to take a look at. So thank you.
And our team, Dr. Keller and Maggie, they have been capturing all that trend data to show those kids were course completion at that freshman year and the graduation rate, and doing kind of a cross look at that. So we will have that data for you. It's quite interesting.
Perhaps too, just as we think about, again, everything is coming together and we get a much greater focus on how we're going to push CTE with our kids at an earlier level as we think about pathways. I think we just have to be careful about unintended consequences or unintended impact if we focus just solely on that freshman year. When we do want to have some exploration as well. But again, good discussion points.
Dr. Yeager?
Uh, your first comment talked about accountability in those meetings. Do you have a list of those meetings, times and locations and dates?
I believe it's the next Monday, Thursday, and then the following Monday, Thursday around the state.
I'm going to ask, Brian, do you have that?
Yeah, so all the meeting dates, locations, times, everything is on our presentation.
So Monday, I know, is at Fort Wayne Ivy Tech Coliseum campus at 4 o'clock.
The next Thursday, I think, is in South Bend.
Thursday, I think, is at South Bend,
Following Monday is, I believe, Evansville.
and then
Next
Madison.
Thursday is in Madison.
And then we have one more that's going to be scheduled for Indianapolis. Is that correct? Has that been scheduled yet?
It is scheduled. It's on the 9th at 8:30 a.m.
Okay, thank you. The 9th at 8:30 a.m. And that, where is that?
That'll be in one of the government centers now.
Okay. All right. And I would encourage all of us as board members, if we can get to those. Those are important meetings, and to hear feedback from the field, because that'll be important, whether it's feedback for changes or feedback for support. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Bess.
Josh, one.
Morning.
Good morning.
My name is Josh Winning. I'm the Executive Director for the Region 8 Education Service Center located in Fort Wayne, serving the K-12 schools in Northeast Indiana. Today, my topic I just want to briefly comment on is just the high school graduation pathways, and specifically the locally developed pathway in box 3 of the pathway that was approved by the board. I've had the pleasure of working with 3 other organizations up in Northeast Indiana, the Northeast Indiana Regional Partnership, Junior Achievement, and Ivy Tech Northeast. Together, we form obviously this, we're being supported by a philanthropic group in the Schwab Foundation. So obviously this group consists of K-12 education, regional economic development, outside education resources, higher education, and private equity. Our group is seeking to develop a transformational process that impacts students and schools across our region and could become a model for other regions across the state. We believe a truly transformational process must directly assist students and schools in accomplishing the goals and expectations laid out by our legislators and, of course, you and the State Board of Ed. As such, we're developing a process that would be hopefully acceptable as a locally developed pathway and that is supported by our local school districts, parents, businesses, and communities. This process would also simultaneously support students completing their 21st century scholar track requirements. So I'm here representing our group, seeking really guidance on how to gain the support of the board and how to develop the most widely accepted pathway that when we come back and hopefully even as soon as next month eventually, and present to you a proposal that hopefully most, if not all of you, would see as a very positive step in the direction you're hoping to see what the locally designed pathway could be. Again, we're working with our local school districts, we're working with business, we're working with economic development, higher ed, and what we don't want to do is work really hard on hopefully developing something we see could be very impactful that doesn't necessarily align with the goals and vision for this group on what a locally developed pathway might look like. So our hope is to identify some resources, point people, rubrics, something that could help guide us as we develop this process so that we come back and this group sees this as a very positive thing that can really help our students. So with that, I just want to thank you for your time, thank you for your service to our state, and any guidance or feedback that we could receive would be extremely helpful. Thank you very much.
Dr. Bertram?
Yeah, thank you for being here. Thanks for your leadership. I'm just curious, how are you thinking about outcomes of those pathways? What do you want those to lead to, ideally?
So that is, it's a great question. In fact, I was just having that exact conversation in the hall with one of the superintendents we're here with today. Part of the feedback that we'd be looking to try and gather is exactly how specific an outcome is a locally developed pathway expected to identify. Is it all the way down to a specific job/career? Is is it to prepare kids to be more college and career ready? Again, as we look at the options in box 3, we're looking at obviously a variety of options, but in our mind, trying to help capture, make sure we can offer an option for students who, as you heard from the folks who testified on the pathways, that might not be able to meet some of those expectations in some of box 3, some of the assessment requirements and things like that. So I'm giving you a very loose answer. I realize that, Dr. Bertram. That's partly the guidance we'd be looking for is, do you want and expect a very specific pathway that leads to a very specific career job? Or could it be more like a template that then leads kids down a pathway that they could then have some options on what that looks like as they move through their high school into their post-high school careers? And I'm answering the question. I apologize for that. That's all right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Dr. Yeager?
Dr. Wenning, thank you for being here. But so what you're looking for is some guidance on what you and your partnership should be developing.
Correct.
Okay. And I think if I'm recalling correctly, this is kind of what we were talking about, right?
Yes.
Board partnerships and he's working with business folks and employers in the northeast part of the state. So I commend you for your work and your effort. And I'm not sure, do we have a timeline in what he can expect to get some parameters? I hate saying parameters, some guidance.
Brian or Matt, do you have an answer for that?
Yes, we're currently in the process of
You're going to need to come up so people can hear you.
Go ahead, Brian.
We're currently in the process of meeting with focus groups to put together a guidance document that'll come back to this board for approval. So we hope that'll come by March. Okay, hopefully by March.
That guideline will be what?
By March, it's coming here.
Yeah, for the
Okay.
board to approve.
A direction for what Dr. Wenning and his group could look for. Okay, here's our guardrails,
Yeah.
if you will, on what he could continue to proceed upon with graduation pathways up in the northeast part of the state.
Correct.
You want to come up and talk, Alicia?
Yeah, while you're coming up, my question too along those lines is, are these locally created pathways, or are these going to be pathways created based on what the state wants people to create?
I agree with that.
I mean,
100%.
to me, the whole idea was a locally created pathway, giving schools the flexibility to address local concerns of local workforce issues. So would it be ideal for them to come to us and say, here's our plan, and let us react to it?
That will eventually happen. We just want to put out some guidance so that when local districts put together these locally developed pathways, they have an idea of the direction.
But haven't we given guidelines? We've said, here's the SAT, ACT, ASVAB, capstone courses, workplace credentials, and locally created pathways. I mean, those are the guidelines, right? You can do any of those. So why are we going to prescribe a locally created pathway?
So we're not. So we wouldn't. So our staff recommendation coming forward with the guidance documents for the board to approve would not be to prescribe anything. It would just be
a
basically
way
to
for them to
set
come get
to further
approval for it.
define what the board's looking for. So one example is, does the board want a local district to partner with workforce or higher ed in development of that pathway? That's one example. The board may say yes, the board may say no. But things like that to better, because what we're hearing folks say, we want this to be a little more defined because we're going to spend some time and some work putting together these pathways. And so, so that would be the goal. The goal would not be to limit innovation or limit local districts' ability to, tailor certain pathways to their local needs.
They just need to be in a way that is equitable to all school districts and all schools.
Yeah.
Because not all schools have the same resource available to them at a local level. And it's very different based on workforce needs and so forth. So,
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
BJ?
If I could piggyback there, I think the less prescriptive we can be, the better off it's going to be. Because to Vince's point, I think we will scare folks off if this looks as a huge daunting task. And we don't want to be really prescribed. We truly, this wasn't us kicking the can down the road. It was saying, hey, do do what you do. You're really, really talented people. Be as creative as you can be and bring it to us. There's still a gatekeeper. They have to bring those to this board to be passed. So let's not get really prescriptive in those parameters because there's a gatekeeper because all those have to come to us for final say. So I don't want us to get really, really prescriptive on what parameters I think will be appreciated. I would say keep those as loose as possible.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just
Tony,
one
do you have a
follow-up question on that as well, Brian. My personal review standard, if I'm sitting here, it's going to be whatever they want to do.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh.
Good morning. Interestingly enough, without coordination, it appears that my comments are going to line up well with the previous discussions. My name is Jeff Butts. I'm superintendent of the Metropolitan School District of Wayne Township. I'm also the current president of the Indiana Association of Public School Superintendents. I stand before you this morning with great concern and really put a lot of thought into what I wanted to say this morning, and hope that it's received as it is intended. And that is as a spirit of trying to work well with all of our schools, to work well with all of our students, to provide them with opportunities that I know you are attempting to do. The General Assembly has clearly embedded greater responsibility for the State Board of Education and other state agencies in the legislation that's being proposed this session, and all the while stripping those responsibilities from the Department of Education. However, I've become very concerned and challenged to see where the State Board, or the State Board staff, and the General Assembly are coordinating efforts to improve the opportunities for our scholars. Watching what is happening at the State House and watching what is happening in the State Board of Education is like watching a multi-car pileup on a foggy day in the mountains. You know that there is more carnage to come, and you can't stop it. Graduation pathways, state accountability, House Bill 1002, House Bill 1420, House Bill 1426, Senate Bill 50, Senate Bill 177, and many others are on a disastrous collision course. You say you want to provide pathways for students to graduate, yet you propose legislation that would proposed legislation would eliminate a significant percentage of students able to satisfy box number 2. You say you want to elevate career pathways, yet propose 50% of high school's letter grades will be tied to a single attempt at achieving a non-remedial score on a college entrance examination. We continue to speak of encouraging the best and the brightest to teach in schools with students who are growing up in the most challenging circumstances, yet the proposed accountability model does not reward their hard work beyond proficiency. I'm strongly encouraging our membership to attend the 4 regional meetings, now 5 regional meetings that have been scheduled to provide feedback on the accountability proposal. However, I will tell you the board's message to the field in December that our voices are insignificant makes it very challenging to re-energize people to re-engage. My request today is that you work closely with your staff to understand the crosswalks between the current proposed legislation, the graduation pathways, and your proposed accountability model. The unintended consequences of not doing this will be disastrous for our students. I appreciate the opportunity to be before you today and to provide my public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Butts.
Good morning,
Good morning.
and Happy New Year to a lot of you because I didn't make it last month. Happy Valentine's Day. Once again, it is indeed a pleasure to come before some of the greatest minds as it pertains to education for our children in the state of Indiana. I just wanted to kind of piggyback on some of the comments that have been made as a parent and a grandparent. Parents don't have a clue of what's going on with our special needs children, those children who are in the greatest need, those children who, when we completed the last portion of graduation pathways, we had nothing in place for them. I was appalled at the fact that educational leaders will come from all over the state of Indiana and their voices were really not heard. I think that you all were elected and appointed to serve our state. Therefore, I think that it is imperative that as we look at how much money we're asking for, we also look at the quality of education that we're giving and bringing to those in the greatest of needs. Monday, there's going to be a rally for public education. I know many of you who sit at this table today were educated in public education. Let's try to do everything we can to help them if they're having problems, get back on their feet. And for those institutions that are coming forth, our charter school, our private schools, whatever is going to help our children, this is what we need to be focused on. There are several things on the agenda that I am interested in, and I hope I've signed up for both sessions so that I will be coming back. I represent the National Coalition of Title I, Chapter 1 parents. I have been in this position for the past 22 years. There's not too many things under the federal guidelines as it involves parental involvement that I do not know about. I will be encouraging parents all over the state of Indiana. If you guys give me your cards, I will be to your hometown as well. I want to hear what parents have to say about the education in the state of Indiana. Do I have any questions?
Questions
Well,
or
God
comments?
bless you all.
Thank
you so much.
Thanks. Is that the end? Thank you. Best practice, 21st Century Charter School from Gary.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, I want to say thank you for having us. Mr. Walker, our sponsor, from great voice and leader from Gary, Indiana. Thank you for having us. Appreciate it. We had a PowerPoint presentation developed, and you all have a copy of it. And one thing I hate is somebody giving a PowerPoint presentation and actually reading it to you. We can all read. But since the audience doesn't have a copy of it, and we don't actually have it available to put on the screen, I will have to give a kind of an overview. But before we get started, I want to introduce a few people who are with me. My name's Kevin Teasley. I'm the founder of GEO, stands for Greater Education Opportunities Foundation. It's based here in Indianapolis. We started a charter school in Gary, Indiana, called 21st Century Charter School back in 2005. I will tell you, we've made our share of mistakes. Our whole mission is to beat poverty. If you had asked me a few years ago, I would have said our mission is to create a quality school. Well, that's how we beat poverty. Our mission is to beat poverty. So how do we beat poverty? That's how we get up every morning and ask ourselves, how do we beat it, poverty? Before I get started, I want to introduce Chriselle Murphy, who is our high school counselor with 21st Century Charter School. Aaron Lewis, and I'm going to introduce you a little bit better later. Raven Osborne, Mrs. Lewis, Aaron's mother, and Emil Igior with GEO Foundation. And I will introduce each of them in more detail a little later in the presentation. But I know the board knows the challenges that Gary, Indiana faces. It's under state control. The system has $100 million in debt. We have some challenges in Gary, Indiana. But those are not the only challenges. In Gary, Indiana, according to demographics, the census data, roughly 88% of the homes do not have a bachelor's degree. 88%. 35% of the families in Gary are in poverty. 71% of the students that go to Gary community schools participate in the free lunch program. Up comes 21C, 21st Century Charter School, started in 2005. We currently have 934 students. It is a K-12 school 94% of our students participate in the free and reduced lunch program. 25% of our students are currently taking college, and I mean real college courses on a college campus. 25%. 100% of our graduates will earn at least 3 college credits. That's actually a board stipulation. In order to earn a 21st century charter school high school diploma, you have to earn at least 3 college credits. We also have a balanced budget. So our approach to beating poverty is multifaceted. First and foremost, we're focused on the specifics, student needs, and outcomes. Our high school is focused on college experience and career readiness. We streamline our high school classes. If you were to go to 21C and say, Mr. Teasley, can you show me your French class, your welding class, your auto mechanics class, your, I don't know, Spanish, Latin, etc. I would say we do not have it. And you might be scratching your head, well, I thought this was a high school. And I'd say we do have it. Let's get in the car and let's go over to one of our partners called Ivy Tech Community College, called IU Northwest, called Purdue Northwest, called Vincennes University, where we have students taking French and Spanish, welding, nursing, psychology, sociology. The list goes on and on and on. But they're getting it at the college level. So 21C is a doorway to college classes. We actually administer the AccuPlacer, which is the entrance exam for going to Ivy Tech, beginning in 7th grade. We want to understand what our students need in forms of remediation. If they need remediation, we provide summer program remediation. The goal is to get our students ready and able to start taking college-level courses as early as 9th grade. That's our goal. You're going to meet a young lady that started in 8th grade today. Summer college classes, and we have no limits to the number of college courses students can take. 21C is considered a launching pad, not a destination. We intentionally limit our facility so that we don't take on more students and more teachers and more subject matter. We want our students and our teachers and more subject matter to be provided by what's already been provided by the public at IU, Purdue, Ivy Tech, and Vincennes. We cover all the tuition. Remember, our goal is to beat poverty. So if we were to put up any barrier whatsoever, well, you can go to college, but you got to pay the tuition. Or you got to pay a share of the tuition. Or you can go to college, but you got to buy that textbook. By the way, it's $300. You can go to college, but you've got to find your transportation. We provide the transportation. We provide the textbooks, college textbooks. We pay for all of the tuition, 100%. We do not ask for any discount from IU, Purdue, Ivy Tech, Vincennes. We pay the full freight. So there's no MOU. The MOU is pay the tuition. That's it. 21C staff also provides support to all of our college-bound students daily. And our counselor monitors each and every one of the students, and we provide a flexible schedule for our students. You'll be able to ask our students today, how do they handle this? So we provide a flexible schedule. And at the very end, the most important piece I think we should not overlook is that our high school remains the safety net for all of our students. Think about all the students that have no college experience, graduate from high school, go off to school, and don't finish the full first year of college. What happened? There was no safety net. That's what I would argue. There's no safety net. Our students, on the other hand, go off to college while they're in our high school, and on a daily basis, they come back to our high school from their college courses in the college campus, and they get support from our staff. You'll meet Raven earlier or later this morning, and if you don't mind, I will share. There were times where Raven was shaking and not so sure she wanted to continue down the path that she was going down. But her staff, our staff, was there to support her and pushed her through. So at our school, when I said earlier that we make mistakes, we started out as college prep. We're going to take you on college tours. We're going to teach you how to file FAFSA forms. We're going to teach you how to do scholarships. We're going to support your efforts in ACT and SAT. We're going to do all of this stuff. But at the end of the day, it wasn't good enough because our students didn't have real college experience. And they're coming from homes that have no college experience in them in the first place. So we're sitting there beating down the door saying, hey, you got to go to college, you do all this stuff, you graduate on time, you're going to go to college, you're going to be successful. From 2010 to 12, 13, I don't think we were very successful. We're getting more successful as we go on. And so last year, we were one of only 5 schools in the state of Indiana that had 100% completion of the FAFSA requirements by the Indiana Commission on Higher Ed. I've got a picture of that little, whatever you want to call it, certificate that we got from Teresa Lovers. Wonderful. We require each and every one of our seniors to sign a college commitment. We have a college signing day. ESPN had their big NCAA football signing commitment thing this past week or two. Well, we have a college signing day, and this is where all of our seniors commit in front of the entire school of 934 students. We bring the kindergartners in to celebrate this big old assembly in the big gym. All of our seniors signing a commitment that they're going to go to college, and actually 100% are accepted to college. Gary, Indiana, folks. 100% are accepted. I have a picture here of 6 young ladies who all earned their associate degree before graduating from our high school in 2017. You'll see on the next page, we have a big banner in our gym. A lot of gyms in Indiana and frankly across the country have maybe retired jerseys for some athlete who did something, or they'll have a list of who was the fastest runner, who was the most points scored in basketball, whatever it is. In our gym, we have that, but we also have something I think is very different. We have a banner that celebrates each and every one of our students who have earned an associate degree or a career certification, and we have probably the only banner in the country celebrating a student who earned her bachelor's degree from Purdue University before earning her high school diploma. A 4-year college degree from Purdue University, completely paid for, debt-free. Can you hold on one second?
Is that Raven?
That's Raven. Mitch Daniels, I have a picture of him with Raven, was so impressed he invited her down to Purdue to have dinner last October. Raven you may have seen on CBS, ABC, and USA Today, lots of different magazines. She's phenomenal, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to talk to her and ask her questions a little later. Raven is, and please don't be offended, is not a one-trick pony, meaning we have more coming right behind her. That would be Erin Lewis. Erin Lewis is a freshman in our high school, and by the end of this year, she will have 22 college credits. How about that, folks? A freshman. She's 14. All of this, yes.
She's on track to have her master's degree by the time she graduates. That's good.
Well, we're going to have to put another banner up pretty soon. I'm sure of that. We have 3 more associate degree students graduating this year. I will tell you, in 2013, Vincent Pena was our first student to earn an associate degree. And Ivy Tech had a lunch up in Northwest Indiana to celebrate all the high school relationships that they have and the students who earn career certifications, associate degrees, whatever. And 21C was the only school at the entire lunch that had any student to ever have an associate degree. And I was scratching my head, what are you talking about? We were only 4 or 5 years old. All of these other traditional high schools have been here. Ivy Tech's been here. This is not new, dual credit. Why are we the only one? And why are we the only one ever in Northwest Indiana to have an associate degree student? So I really started scratching my head on that. I've got some answers to that, but only if I'm asked a question. But all of this now, we've got roughly 17, I believe, students who have earned their associate degree over the last 4 or 5 years. We've got the only student with a bachelor's degree. We've got several students getting career certification. And all of our students are going to college. In 2017, our graduates earned an average of 17 college credits each. 17 college credits. 6 earned an associate degree, 1 earned a bachelor's degree, 9 earned a career certification. This is out of a class of 43. 39 of them went to college, 1 went into the Air Force, 2 went directly into a career. So I will go back to my first comment. We are here to beat poverty. Can we prove it? You bet we can. On the second to last page, right in the very middle of that presentation is a picture of our former Governor Mike Pence with a young man named John Terrell Bowles. He's one of 6 kids in his family. They lived in 6 different homeless shelters while he was attending our school. 6 different homeless shelters. He was a foster kid. They split the 6 kids into 3 and 3. Didn't know his siblings, didn't get to see his siblings every day. But he didn't make any excuses, and we didn't make any excuses. He graduated with over 30 college credits. He is now at University of Virginia on a full academic scholarship studying medicine. He's a sophomore. And he's giving back. We keep in touch. To the left is a picture of Naisha and Denisha, 2 daughters who both earned their associate degree before graduating from our high school. Naisha is now at IU Fort Wayne. Denisha is at Fort Wayne. Naisha graduated with her associate degree in 2014, went off to Ball State with a full scholarship. She graduated in 2016, 2 years out of high school. She's now back at 21C teaching high school math. Fully employed, debt-free, college debt-free. Bought her first car just a couple of months ago. We're friends on Facebook. That was on Facebook. So, I wonder if this is a national model. U.S. Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos came to visit our school last September, and there's a picture of her with a lot of our college students. And I know, since we are in Indiana, basketball is extremely important, and high school is oftentimes measured by how good your basketball team is. Well, we win regionals. We go to state semifinals. And I always share that we have an advantage on the other teams because we're not playing with high school students. We're playing with students who are in college. So I wanted to share this with you. I think we've got a pretty good story. And frankly, I'd like to see how we could take this statewide. I think there's lots of differences between us and others that are doing what is called early college. There is a great early college school right here in Indianapolis. It's in Wayne Township. I believe in Wayne Township, Ben Davis University High. Is that Wayne Township?
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. Ben Davis University High is doing a great job. They're very different than us. I think we should learn from Ben Davis. I think we should learn from 21C, and frankly, all the others that are doing early college. But I will leave it at that, and hopefully you'll have some questions for my guests.
First of all, thank you for all you're doing. Obviously, you have a great program and you are doing amazing things, so thank you for your work. I do have a question before we talk to the students. Out of your 934, how many are in high school? What are the 912
Roughly
numbers?
300. It's 286, I believe.
So are you capped?
Capped by our facility. We're not capped by our authorizer. We're just capped by our facility.
So are you full?
We are completely full. We have students taking, I hate to admit this, but it's true, they're taking courses in the hallway.
So are you looking at scaling?
We would like to grow our enrollment. We're working with the city of Gary. We're very respectful of the challenge with the $100 million debt and what's happening in the Gary community schools. But the mayor is quite supportive and helpful. We do have a second school. It's called Gary Middle College. And this is a school that grew out of 21C in the sense that we're K-12. But, you know, inevitably somebody may have some sort of life-changing experience. They may get somebody pregnant. Maybe they are pregnant and they can't go to the traditional school at traditional times. So we started something called Gary Middle College. It was supposed to be an evening program. I know you're familiar with Excel Centers. We started this before they existed. But it was an evening program. Well, we had 800 applicants for 100 seats in Gary, Indiana. So we didn't have any trouble recruiting students. We had trouble retaining students. That's a problem. So we visited, I know Todd is here, Todd Best, with Scott Best, his brother, who's a great guy and very helpful to us. And I asked Scott, what did you do at Excel to handle these issues with retention? Well, they started a morning program, and then they started an afternoon program. So we did the same thing at Gary Middle College. And we are a very small facility. I'll go ahead and tell you, about 6,000 square feet, serving 224 students. And you're scratching your head, how did you do that? 6,000 square feet, 224, because our classrooms are not the destination. We don't want you to come and sit in our classrooms. We want you out at Ivy Tech, Purdue, IU, Vincennes, and I don't want to buy welding tools. I don't want to build a coliseum. I don't want to spend money that way. I'd rather spend money on your education, your certification. And so we don't ever have 224 students in our 6,000 square feet, but they do come in every day. It's roughly 80 students per session, morning, afternoon, evening. But that, we think, is a more efficient use of money that we have. We don't get any philanthropic dollars, so everybody's thinking, well, they're doing it with no, we don't do that. We do this with all the state money that we get. That's what we do.
So the facilities aren't your barrier to growth. What would be your barrier to growth?
Right now, I would say facilities are our barrier to growth at 21C because we can't put kindergartners in college courses. Mm-hmm. We have to get our high school kids in, and we are at the board level now at the school looking to, we're very happy with what we're doing, but the traditional mindset does creep in many times. Well, we got to offer this course. We got to offer that course. And we got to go back and say, no, we don't have to offer that course. Not us, because that's offered at IU or Purdue. What we have to do is remediate students and prepare students to get to the college level. That's our job. We don't have anybody going over to IU or Ivy Tech or anybody taking remediation level courses. They're all taking 100, 200, and 300 and 400 in the case of Raven level courses. So another barrier is getting people to believe what we're doing, getting parents to believe. The lady that spoke before me, getting parents to believe that this can happen. Heck, I'm a parent. I've got 3 kids. And my own kids are like, I just want the traditional high school experience. Well, the traditional high school experience is over. It's over. We need to move on. What I had when I was in high school, forget about it. Let's move on. We're in the 21st century. Who buys all their stuff on Amazon now? Who has all of this stuff right here where you can get all your music? You know, who has an 8-track anymore? Nobody. you know, but we have traditional schools.
We should
Thank
take a
you.
survey on that.
Sorry about that. Oh, you have an 8-track.
No, I don't.
I will say,
You've
Dr.
got
Bertram,
vinyls,
I'm sorry I was not sensitive. We do have Project Lead the Way in our school. Just want you
Thank
to know
you.
that.
To the students who are here, before I take questions and comments, to the students who are here, we are proud of you and congratulations for what you've accomplished. That really is amazing. To mom. To mom, congratulations. We know that that takes an entire group of supporters, and you are obviously a primary supporter, so congratulations to you as well, and thank you for being that support. To the counselor, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. Okay. We could talk for hours, but thank you for everything you're doing. I know your job is complex, and it is one of those thankless jobs sometimes, and you are stretched a lot of different ways. So thank you for all you're doing, and I need your information before you leave, because we do need to talk, but it's a much longer conversation. So thank you for everything you're doing as well. Dr. Bertram.
Yeah, just a couple comments, questions. First, I mean, all the challenges you talk about, I presume there are open school buildings and vacant school buildings in Gary, correct?
Yes, there are.
What keeps you from using those?
As I understand it, most of the public school buildings in Gary are not, you cannot buy them because they're the federal tax issues. There's some sort of a lien. Yes, there we go, a lien.
Oh, so it makes total sense to keep them vacant, is that right? And kids can't use them?
Don't drag me into
Those
that,
are,
please.
no, I mean, they're public assets. It doesn't make sense to me why we can't use them.
Yeah.
So we keep them vacant. Okay. Other than that not making at all any sense to me. You know, I think what you're doing, and the challenges you talk about, whether it's debt or other issues, those are not student issues. Those are adult issues. And I think it's admirable what you're doing for these students and for what the students are accomplishing. And I think to be able to replicate this and to provide it for more students should be an absolute mission of your work, and anything that, I will speak just individually, anything that I can do or others may be able to do to help you in that endeavor, we need to do that. We need to figure out how we get facility usage available. Right? I mean, the bureaucracy that keeps you from getting there, we have to cut through that. Right? The other challenge, I think, is how many of your students get scholarships to college?
Most of them are on the 21st Century Scholars
Yeah,
program,
so-
but they also get scholarships.
Okay, so that was that, and I was assuming that. Why are you paying full tuition then?
Well, that's another question, and where we should be talking, I would like to, and we have already started some conversation with Senator Lovers about taking advantage of the 21st Century Scholars Program, because that is for primarily our students, and that is to help the students actually go to college and complete college. We're helping those students actually go to college and complete college, but we're doing with your dime.
Yeah, see, I just think that's a great conversation to have.
Yeah.
Because for a number of years, and in fact, in the prior administration, there was an experiment, I believe, in Tennessee where they took $10 million and made student financial aid available to high school students. And the whole idea was a move toward allowing students to access financial aid while they were in high school. And I think, I'm trying to think about all the opportunities for expansion. If you could free up those resources rather than paying the tuition, allow the 21st Century Scholars or allow other financial aid to take effect while they're in high school. Well, there's no reason a student should get a bachelor's degree in high school and you're paying full price for that when that student, if she waited, right, is going to potentially get a 21st Century Scholar.
Correct. We actually saved the state money by us paying for her tuition.
Sure,
and the Mitch Daniels Scholarship for students who graduate early, that's a good idea, but I think for our students, and I would hope that Raven will back me up and come on up here and talk about it, is that I don't want to present this is the answer, guys. No, it is a solution. There are students who want to graduate early at 16. Naisha Kennedy did and went off to Ball State, and 2 years later had her bachelor's degree. But Raven didn't. Raven this really happened when she was a sophomore going into junior year. she came up to me. We had a celebration for the students who passed the ECA. And she came up to me and said, Mr. Teasley, I want to talk to you. I've got a problem. And I said, well, what's the problem? So, well, I will have already earned my associate degree by the time I start my junior year in high school. And I said, hallelujah, you can graduate early. You've got 60 college credits. You've got all your high school credits. Let's move on. You're going. He said, well, that's my problem. I don't want to graduate early. I want to stay and graduate with my peers. Remember, she's only 16. But here's my challenge. Can I continue to take more college courses? And I literally scratched my head because our goal at our school, we thought was big, hairy, audacious goal, was kids getting an associate degree from Gary, Indiana. Well, here we have a kid at 16, got her associate degree. We met our goal. Yay, let's go home. No, she wants to stay in our high school and take more college courses. So I literally at that time called the DOE. It wasn't under your regime. But I did call the DOE and talked to the staff and said, have you ever answered such a question? And how many college courses can a high school kid take? There's no limit. There's no limit. We just haven't had too many kids push the limit in Indiana. And it does beg the question. We are always about breaking new sports goals and setting new, what do you call it? Records. Thank you. Nervous. You get these records out there. Well, he ran this far. He ran this fast. He shot so many goals. Whatever. Do we have records out there that we're breaking academically, other than you got a perfect score on the SAT or perfect score on the ACT? Got a 4.57. That's the ceiling. Is it? Is it really the ceiling? You made a joke about maybe Aaron getting a master's degree. Maybe that's the ceiling.
It wasn't a joke.
No, it's not a joke. I know, it wasn't.
Yeah.
But the reality is we need to think beyond where we are today. A Core 40 diploma is almost irrelevant, folks. And I love to say that we're turning that achievement gap that everybody likes to talk about on its head. Because what is the achievement gap? Low income, minority students not achieving as well as what? Traditional students from, say, Carmel, from Zionsville, from Noblesville, from Fishers. How many students in Noblesville, Carmel, Zionsville, Fishers have an associate degree? How many of them have a master's degree? How many of them have a bachelor's degree in high school? And yet they're right here in Indianapolis. We've got IUPUI, we've got Ivy Tech, we've got Butler, we've got we got a lot here in Indianapolis. Not so much in Gary, but we've got kids who are flipping the story. The achievement gap, folks, is now the other way. Catch up.
Raven, can we have you come up? Because I know Dr. Ernest is dying to ask you questions.
I'm a student guy, so I want to hear students, so I'm excited to hear from you. I'd like to know where your motivation came from this. Was that embedded somewhere in the school? Give us a little bit of your experience.
Well, when I was about in 8th grade, we had a fellow student who earned his associates, and that was my main goal. And I didn't even think about the bachelor's. I didn't know if that would be possible. But yeah, at home, my family, we value education, so I think that's why I took it so seriously. So yeah.
Thank you.
It's a great ending. Does anybody else have any comments or questions?
What do you want to do in your career?
Well, right now I'm teaching at 21st Century Elementary School. So I think I'm going to work toward my master's in education and continue there.
We need friends. Go find your friends.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you should look towards CEO of Project Lead the Way or something.
Hey, state superintendent.
Succession planning, I think is there.
Thank you very much. Thank you, 21st Century. It was very nice. Thank you. At this time, we're going to take a 5-minute break.
Could I get a picture of you with our students?
Sure.